You don't need to control the world. You just need to control 4 things: your mouth, your mood, your money, and your mind. Miss any one of them, and life will remind you who's in charge. You can be smart, talented, even well-intentioned, but if you can't control your tongue when you're angry, your thoughts when you're afraid, your mood when things go wrong, or your money when temptation knocks, then you're not in control of your life. You're just reacting to it. And here's the truth. The Stoics understood better than anyone. Freedom doesn't begin with what you own. It begins with what you can control. Not your job, not your past, not their opinions, but yourself. Your discipline, your restraint, your ability to pause when the average man would explode, your ability to walk away when most would chase, your ability to choose silence over noise and stillness over chaos. So, in this video, we're going to break down the 4 silent forces that shape everything: your words, your emotions, your finances, and your inner world. Control them, and you'll build a life that no storm can shake. Let them control you, and you'll watch your future collapse quietly from the inside out. This isn't motivation. This is a manual for self-mastery. Let's begin. The tongue has no bones, yet it can break trust, kill opportunity, and burn bridges no apology can rebuild. He was a solid man. 7 years in the company, quietly competent, always prepared. He wasn't the loudest in the room, but people listened when he spoke. Until one day, in a leadership meeting, a younger colleague was chosen to present a strategy he helped build. He didn't agree with how it was delivered. So, mid-presentation, he interrupted, frustrated, voice raised, tone sharp. The room went silent, and in that moment, he was right. But from that day on, no one looked at him the same. That's the danger. You can win the argument and still lose the war. You can speak truth and still destroy your credibility if you don't control your delivery. The Stoics understood this. Words are not weapons. They are tools, and like any tool, in the wrong hands or used at the wrong time, they do more harm than good. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. The wise man doesn't speak to prove. He speaks to clarify. And most of the time he waits." Let's be honest, you don't get in trouble for what you didn't say. You get in trouble when your mouth runs ahead of your mind. And you regret it not just because of the damage it caused, but because deep down, you knew. You didn't have to say it. Look at today's culture. Everyone has something to say. Everyone's interrupting, reacting, arguing, correcting, and yet no one seems to be listening. But when someone walks in and says less, when someone pauses before they speak, when their words feel measured like they've been earned through experience, people notice. Because in a world addicted to noise, discipline is magnetic. Let's bring it closer to home. Think about the last time you said something out of anger. Maybe it was to a friend, or a partner, or someone at work. You didn't mean it exactly. You were just reacting, but the damage still there. You apologized. They forgave. But that little voice in their head, it whispers, so that's what they really think of me. And you can't unsay it. Now let's flip it. Think about someone you admire. Do they speak to win, or do they speak to serve? Do they lash out, or do they listen first? That's the difference. The average person speaks to express emotion. The wise person speaks to influence direction. And the Stoic, he speaks only when silence is no longer sufficient. Controlling your mouth isn't about weakness. It's about mastering the most dangerous weapon you carry with you at all times. Your words can open doors or close them. They can lift someone from the edge or push them over it. They can lead others or leave scars. And most dangerously of all, your words shape your own mind. What you say to others reflects what you think of yourself, and what you say to yourself becomes the reality you live in. So the next time you're tempted to snap, to gossip, to complain, or just to talk, ask yourself, is this necessary? Is this constructive? Am I adding light or just more noise? Because in the end, you won't be remembered for how loud you spoke. You'll be remembered for whether your words meant something or nothing at all. Control your mouth. Speak less. Mean more. And let your silence speak louder than most people's shouting ever could. Your mind is not a mirror of the world. It's a mirror of what you've chosen to focus on. He lost everything not because the world collapsed, but because his mind did. After getting laid off, he stopped applying for new roles. He told himself no one was hiring, that he was too old, that it was hopeless. So he withdrew. He stayed quiet. He accepted defeat. Months passed. His friends still checked in, offering leads. But he ghosted them, not because the opportunities weren't real, but because his thoughts told him they weren't meant for him. This is how most people lose their battles, not in action, but in thought. Long before failure touches them in the real world, they've already surrendered. Mentally, the Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus taught, it's not things that disturb us, but our judgments about things. You see, your mind is a gate. Whatever you allow in shapes everything else. If your thoughts are chaotic, fearful, angry, or constantly reactive, then your actions will reflect that. So will your relationships, habits, and outcomes. But here's the problem. Most people don't even realize what's living in their minds. They let negative thoughts sit there, unchallenged, and like mold in a dark room, it spreads. Let me ask you this. Have you ever told yourself, I can't, before you even tried? Have you assumed someone didn't like you before they even spoke? Have you felt anxiety over something that hadn't even happened yet? That's not reality. That's untrained thought, and it's running the show. The mind is not just a place of thought. It's the battlefield of your destiny, and if you don't control it, you'll be ruled by fear disguised as logic, by assumptions disguised as awareness, and by emotion disguised as truth. Let's bring this home. A Stoic man wakes up in the same world as everyone else, the same noise, the same chaos, the same stress. But the difference, he chooses what enters his mind. He chooses where his attention goes. He filters every thought through reason, and he doesn't entertain thoughts that don't serve his higher self. But I can't help how I feel. Yes, you can. You just haven't trained the discipline of thought. Controlling your mind doesn't mean pretending everything is okay. It means you no longer let emotion write your narrative. You no longer accept every thought as truth. You interrogate your inner dialogue. Is this fear or fact? Is this the truth or just trauma speaking? You don't silence the storm. You just stop giving it the wheel. Tools of the Stoic mind. Journaling, to challenge and clarify your thoughts. Meditation, to observe thoughts without attachment. Reading, to feed your mind disciplined frameworks instead of junk. Solitude, to hear your own mind without the noise of others. Because let's be honest, if you spend all day feeding your mind with drama, gossip, clickbait, and chaos, don't be surprised when your life feels out of control. Your mind is not a trash bin. Stop throwing unverified thoughts into it and expecting peace. You want power, then take it back up here. Because the man who controls his mind cannot be manipulated, cannot be thrown off course, cannot be ruled by fear. Control your mind. Because every war is won or lost before the first move is made. You can feel everything and still let nothing control you. That's not coldness, that's mastery. He missed a job opportunity that could have changed his life, not because he wasn't qualified, not because someone sabotaged him, but because he walked into the interview with a bad mood. Earlier that morning, he spilled coffee on his shirt. Then someone cut him off in traffic. Then the receptionist made him wait 20 minutes. By the time he sat across from the hiring manager, his face was tight, his tone was off, and his energy negative. They never called him back. That's the cost of an uncontrolled mood. It leaks. It ruins moments that didn't deserve to be ruined. It spreads beyond the trigger and infects everything that follows. The Stoics warned us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Marcus Aurelius' anger is not the problem. Sadness is not the problem. Frustration, disappointment, anxiety, they're all human. But when you allow those emotions to hijack your behavior, when you give them the keys to your day, you've already lost. Your mood is not who you are. It's a weather system passing, shifting, temporary. And just like the weather, you don't have to cancel your entire day just because it's raining. Let's be real. We've all had moments where one small thing sets off a chain reaction, a delayed email, a sarcastic comment, a missed train. Suddenly, the whole day feels ruined. You're snappy, short-tempered, distracted. But the real problem isn't what happened. The problem is you never took a breath to reset. You never asked yourself, do I want this emotion to define my entire day? The Stoic response: pause, process, proceed. A Stoic doesn't ignore emotion, he observes it. He doesn't pretend everything's fine. He just doesn't hand over control. Instead of reacting, he reflects. Instead of spiraling, he pauses. He chooses his response, not from impulse, but from principle. Feelings are not facts. They're signals, not commands. Just because you feel something doesn't mean you need to act on it. Just because you're triggered doesn't mean you're right. Just because you're sad doesn't mean you're doomed. Let me give you a practical Stoic tool: emotional labeling. When the mood hits, name it. I feel frustrated. I feel insecure. I feel dismissed. Just naming it creates distance. And in that distance, clarity is born. From there, you ask, what would a stronger version of me do right now? And then you do that. Gratitude helps too. You can't hold anger and appreciation in the same hand. So when the mood turns dark, shift the spotlight. Find one thing you're grateful for. Then anchor to that. Because here's the truth. If you don't control your mood will control your words, your choices, your relationships, and your results. And most of the time, the damage it causes can't be undone with just, I'm sorry. So don't chase a perfect day. Chase emotional mastery. Train yourself to stay calm when it's storming. Train yourself to smile without reason. Train yourself to respond like a man of principle, not a slave to passing moods. Because when you can hold your center, the world becomes a lot less scary and you become a lot more powerful. Control your mood, because no victory lasts if your emotions are still in charge. Money doesn't change who you are. It just exposes how much control you truly have. He drives a car he can't afford to impress people he doesn't respect and posts it online, hoping strangers will like it. Behind the scenes, he's drowning in debt, credit maxed out, rent overdue, but his clothes are fresh and his ego untouchable until the bill comes due. The modern world doesn't enslave you with chains anymore. It enslaves you with payments. Monthly payments, mental payments, spiritual payments. You can't build peace when you're building debt. And you can't build power when you've sold your discipline for instant pleasure. The Stoics didn't speak about money the way we do now, but they spoke deeply about attachment, Abu Désir, about addiction to comfort. Epictetus warned, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. Let's be honest, most people don't have a money problem. They have a self-control problem. I deserve this problem. I'll deal with it later problem. They're not spending money. They're spending peace of mind and calling it happiness. Let me tell you something the world won't. If you can't say no to what you want now, you'll never have what you truly want later. A Stoic doesn't chase wealth to show off. He builds it to protect his freedom, to ensure he never becomes a beggar, not for money, not for favors, not for approval, because dependence, in any form, is a silent cage. Real wealth is not just income, it's control. Control over your spending, control over your emotions, control over your future. It's the ability to say, I don't need that right now because I'm building something bigger. Let's bring it closer. Have you ever gone shopping just because you were bored? Ever bought something expensive, not because you needed it, but because your ego was bruised? And you wanted to feel in control. That's not power. That's emotional escape, disguised as self-worth. And here's the harsh truth. If your mood controls your money, you're already broke no matter your income. A Stoic builds systems. He budgets not to restrict joy, but to protect freedom. He saves because storms come without warning. He invests not just in assets, but in mindset, skill, and stability. He avoids debt because the interest you pay isn't just financial, it's mental. Debt steals more than dollars. It steals your options. It makes you say yes to jobs you hate. It keeps you up at night. It turns your future into a prison you walk into voluntarily. Now let me be clear, money is not evil, but obsession with it is. When you live to impress, you die in Stress. When you live above your means, you sink below your potential. You don't need to be rich. You need to be stable. You need to be in control. Because there is no stoicism without self-reliance. And there is no self-reliance if you're at war with your own wallet. Every dollar you spend is a vote for the future you'll live in. So before you buy something, ask, does this support the man I'm becoming? Is this a reward or a reaction? Will this matter in 5 years? Or is it feeding a 5-second emotion? You want peace, then fix the leaks. You want power, then stop outsourcing your discipline to impulse. Because a man who can't control his money will always be at the mercy of someone who does. Control your money. Because financial freedom isn't about being rich, it's about no longer being a slave. The man who controls himself can't be controlled by anyone else. Most people want freedom, but what they really chase is permission. Permission to indulge. Permission to react. Permission to be lazy, undisciplined, and still expect peace. But true freedom, it doesn't come from external liberty. It comes from internal discipline. And until you master yourself, your mouth, your mood, your money, your mind, you'll always be owned by something. Look around, you'll see men addicted to impulse, reacting to every insult, spending every dollar, exploding over nothing, craving validation for every step they take. They're not free. They're just loud. And underneath that noise is fear. A Stoic lives differently. He isn't cold. He isn't emotionless. He just doesn't hand over the keys to his inner peace every time life gets messy. He doesn't yell because he doesn't need to prove. He doesn't flex because he's not afraid of being underestimated. He doesn't overspend because he knows real power is quiet. Discipline is his armor. It's how he walks into the world steady, not because the world is easy, but because he's no longer fragile inside. Let me ask you, what would your life look like if your emotions didn't control your mornings, if your thoughts didn't spiral every night, if your words always matched your wisdom, if your wallet reflected your values? That's not just a dream. That's what happens when you start choosing control over comfort. The Stoics didn't chase luxury. They chased alignment. They didn't seek applause. They sought integrity. They understood freedom isn't doing whatever you want. It's becoming someone who doesn't need to be rescued from himself. And here's the paradox. Most men never learn. Discipline doesn't cage you. It liberates you. When you control your speech, you build trust. When you control your thoughts, you unlock clarity. When you control your emotions, you win battles without starting wars. When you control your money, you move freely. Instead of begging for options. You want power. Then stop trying to control people, outcomes, or opinions. Start with the battlefield inside. Because the man who wins there can't be stopped. Control is not the goal. It's the path. Freedom is what follows. You will never be truly free until you become the master of your own impulses. Not your boss. Not your childhood. Not your circumstances. You. Because you are both the architect and the saboteur, the protector and the prisoner, the one who chooses to build or to break. You don't need more motivation. You need more ownership. You've heard enough speeches. Now it's time to look in the mirror and ask, am I controlled by my mood? Am I leaking power through my words? Am I broke in discipline? Even when I have money, is my mind working for me or against me? If even one of those answers hurts good, that means you're ready. Start small. Speak with more purpose. Think with more clarity. Feel with more balance. Spend with more intention. Control those four, and watch the rest of your life bend to your will. This isn't about being perfect. It's about never again being passive, because no one is coming to save you. But you've already started. If this message sparked something in you, don't keep it quiet. Leave a comment. Share this with someone who's still trapped by their own chaos. And subscribe for more Stoic wisdom designed to help you master the only battlefield that truly matters, yourself. This is Think Stoic 101, and your next chapter starts now.